What NSFW fact did you learn at an embarrassingly late age? When I was in high school, my parents, my best friend and I were going somewhere. Parents in the front seat, me and my buddy in the back. While we were driving, my folks were listening to some oldies on the radio. There was an interview with the lead singer of and the Mysterians. In the interview, he said the song 96 Tears was originally called 69 Tears, but they changed the name because they knew the song wouldn't get any airplay with the original title. Me, I don't understand why it wouldn't get played on the radio. 96, 69, they're just numbers. Awkward pause. My best friend leaned into the front seat and said, Mr. and Mrs. Groovy Brent, I've got this one. Later that day he explained what I had just asked my parents. Your best friend is a good guy and friend, and I hope your parents appreciated him. My brother went the first 22 years of his life thinking that every woman in the entire world got their period during the last week of the month. Like some kind of demonic clockwork. Bloody hell. Edit. 2 months later. Thanks for the silvers. I'm sorry, had no idea what it was worth. So dumb. Anyone with even a rudimentary education knows it occurs alongside the full moon. Something to do with the tides, right? Cramps come in, blood goes out. Can't explain that. That tampons stay inside the woman. I thought they went in the bathroom, popped one in, and it soaked up all the blood. Then they removed it, and were good for a few hours. What a wet dreamies. I remember in school being taught, but not knowing what it was. I even remember answering the question on a sex ed TED. Wet dreams are also referred to as nocturnal emissions. Blah blah blah. But I had no idea what they were talking about. I always thought a wet dream meant you peed yourself. Oh, you mean sheet sneezes. Not me, but an old roommate of mine. He comes in and asks me if my husband and I were gonna have sex that night. I told him probably not, because my husband got home late. He then asks me if his girlfriend can have one of my birth control pills, because they didn't have any condoms. I told him no, because I have to take it. He asks me why, because I said my husband and I weren't gonna do anything. I told him you have to take it at the same time every day for it to work. He looked at me like an idiot, and that was the day I had to explain birth control to my 23-year-old roommate. This is the first one I'm currently guilty of not knowing. Guess I got confused with morning after pills. I'm an RN, and I told a patient I needed her to put a tampon in before we collected her urine sample because she had vaginal bleeding. She looked at me like I was an absolute idiot and said, you can't do that. If you put the tampon in, how can the pee get out? Mind you, this was a 25-year-old woman who also had 2 daughters. It took about 10 minutes of explaining for her to understand that you don't pee out of your vagina. I still don't think she believed me. Women wipe themselves with TP after going pee. Was in my mid-20s when I found that out. I hope you're a guy. I had to explain sex ed to my college roommate who was having sex with the 40-year-old pizza delivery guy. Unprotected, I had to explain pregnancy, birth control, the process, everything. She thought I was crazy. When a mommy and daddy loves each other very much, a stork brings a baby in a basket. There's more than one size of condom. A proud macro tiny user myself. I had to break it to my 27-year-old friend that she doesn't pee from her clit. Not with that attitude, she doesn't. That being circumcised didn't mean the head of your dick gets chopped off. I was too old when I found that out. At 18 years old, I had no fucking clue that balls just moved on their own. I sat and stared at his ballsack for a good 10 minutes, just in absolute awe. I felt like I was tripping on acid. The skin moved up and down, swirled around, turned to the left. I have never had my mind more blown than that moment of watching balls move around for the first time. Edit. Goddammit guys, my highest comment is about balls. I thought this was a known fact, that the skin can just move right before your eyes. Fascinating, is it not? Babe, take off your pants for a secretary? No, I just want to watch your personal lava lamp. Apparently, Netflix and chill has a slang meaning I didn't know it had. While getting my hair cut the other day by a 20-something hairstylist, the conversation turned to what we were doing that weekend. Not having a lot going on that evening, I told her I wasn't doing much. She said the same. She said she was just going to sit at home that evening and relax. So I said, oh, Netflix and chill? The look on her face told me immediately I had put my foot in my mouth. I simply smiled at her innocently. After a few awkward moments she said, you don't know what that means, do you? I confessed that I didn't. Like trying to explain something to her clueless grandfather, she made me aware of the subtext meaning. So, that was an uncomfortable haircut. My 32-year-old wife learned this one a couple months ago after an embarrassing Facebook post that both of our families saw. Even our parents knew what it meant. For whatever reason, I grew up thinking that men were supposed to have 3 testicles. I was a 13-year-old boy before learning the truth. I thought I was deformed, or maybe my third ball just hadn't developed yet somehow. I'm not really sure what I was thinking. I just remember the absolute embarrassment I felt when one of my friends found out about this misunderstanding. Dr. Evil also had me thinking that you were supposed to have 3 testicles. I remember having a dream that mini-me saw me naked and started laughing at me because I only had 2 balls. I had a general idea about sex from a very young age, but didn't officially understand the mechanics of intercourse until I was a young teen after I asked, embarrassingly loud, in class what a boner was. I knew what sex was from a fairly young age, but didn't know that boners were a thing. So I was so confused as to how a penis would get in there. Like, do you have to squish it in? Semen is supposed to leak out of a woman's vagina after sex if she's walking around. I never really thought of it until my last girlfriend mentioned it, suggesting it was weird. Then I read about it on here, someone mentioning that it's normal. We broke up afterwards, so she still does know. I very recently discovered that the clitoris is outside of the vagina. My first girlfriend never learned where it was, so I didn't think anything of it. My current girlfriend, when we started having sex, she said, don't forget the clit, and I went, what? The clitoris is outside the vagina, but the majority of it is actually internal. The outside part, the glands, is just the easiest to access. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was awkward and regularly picked on. I thought I was super cool wearing LA Looks hair gel to style my hair with a duck butt. The stuff often dried and peeled and left white chunks in the hair if you touched it too much. So at the lunch table this girl goes, it looks like you have jizz in your hair, and I didn't know what that word was. So I just said, yeah I do, and then nobody talked to me the rest of the day. I've never seen someone fail a quick time event in real life before. You even had a button. You pushed the wrong one. Not me, but I had a rather frustrating conversation with someone in high school on the bus about foreskins. He couldn't fathom how someone could be uncircumcised because, and I quote, how could you even pee then? The dude literally thought the foreskin covered the entire penis at birth, and you had to be circumcised so you could pee. I learned in elementary school that babies were made by a male sperm coming out of the testicles, making its way to a female's egg and fertilizing it. What they failed to mention was how the sperm got there. I thought that the sperm fizzed and foamed through the skin of the ballsack, and you rubbed the fizz/foam concoction up against the vagina while the sperm figured out the rest. I didn't realize the truth until the end of 6th grade, when I witnessed my first porn flick with my best friends. It wasn't until earlier this year that I admitted this was my understanding to my GF. My school tried to keep sex ed as PG as possible, never mentioning or showing diagrams of penetrative sexual intercourse. They just use the term sex and intercourse without any sort of context to paint an accurate picture for us. My GF thinks it's absolutely hilarious. I thought it was fairly embarrassing. Knowledge is power. My girlfriend in high school once rubbed my dick over my pants in my truck before a movie. When we talked about how that was later in the evening, she said that was my first hand job. She honestly thought that was a hand job. That girls can masturbate too. I learned this at almost 14. I'm female. Edit. Learned how to correctly spell masturbate. I guess it wasn't a necessarily late age, but I was telling a whole group of horrified friends in high school about how I was eating out my cousin for doing something, only to later be told the difference between eating out and chewing out. You can't get pregnant if you dry hump with clothes on. I was told at school that you could. I didn't know this until I was 19. Edit. Good to know my highest upvoted comment was about thinking you could get pregnant through dry humping. There are better things than workshop carpet to rub your dick against. That you shouldn't send loads of dick pics for no reason. It might have been the right age when I learned, but it was too late anyway. Not me, but I have 2 hilarious stories about this. I work with surgeons and often they are sheltered sweethearts. Neither of these stories involve patients around. They are either in the lounge or before or after patients are around. Story 1. A few of us were making silly motorboat jokes to each other. An attending, established doc for those that don't know, mid-40s age, walked in and said, "I also motorboat. I have a spot on the lake." Someone had to explain to him what motorboating was. He has 3 kids. Story 2. Ironically, same attending. A resident who is 27 already a doctor, but still training working with attending, was about to get married. He came to the room, boasting about his bachelor party and how it was all his guy friends from growing up, school, and residency. He was so excited to show us and the attending the video of all his guy friends giving him a golden shower. None of us explained that a champagne shower is not called a golden shower. We just let him go around the room and say things like, "All my friends gave me a golden shower. Look, I have video." He and the attending were so into the video, and I couldn't help but gawk and hold back extreme laughter at the situation. I'm late to the party with this, but this is an embarrassing case of bad women's anatomy, made worse by the fact that I'm woman. A couple of weeks ago I learned that when pregnant women are told in labor things like "you are 7 centimeters dilated," I thought that they were literally talking about the vagina rather than the cervix. In my mind, the vagina literally just became a huge 10 centimeters open black hole into the body. I only learned a few weeks ago that it is the cervix they are talking about. Did I also mention that I'm nearly 8.5 months pregnant? In middle school I wasn't uninterested in the opposite sex, surprise I'm gay, or anything sexual. My friend told me women could have multiple orgasms at once, and my only reaction was, "That sucks," not knowing what an orgasm was. I had to be probably 17 or so when I learned that girls don't grow a vagina when they hit puberty. I had babysat girls and changed their diapers before, but I didn't look at their business. That's why I was always so confused when you heard about people doing bad things with underage girls. I thought if they hadn't hit puberty, then there's no vagina. So then what do they do? I also didn't know about the Christian poop hole loophole either. I just learned from my wife today that women are born with all the eggs they will ever produce in their life. I'm 28. Edit. Apparently there is some relatively recent science that would indicate that women can make new egg cells with stem cells, but how much this contributes is unclear. Thank you for making it to the end. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more daily Reddit stories. Here's a meme as a reward.